Morning, guys. Really quick, just wanted to make this video. We're going to discuss this in class, but I wanted to make a video of it as well for those of you that don't make it to Zoom. So I want you to look at that picture. This is what we call a BOHR model, and it is a pictorial representation of an atom of a certain element, okay? And what we're going to be learning this week is, one, not only how to draw these for a particular element, but also how to determine what element a drawing has. So in one way, we're going to say, here's an element, and then we're going to learn how to draw the BOHR model. And then another way, we're going to say, here's the BOHR model, and then we're going to determine what the element is based on the evidence in the BOHR model, okay? So if you look at this BOHR model, you have to ask yourself some questions. First off, what do you think the green circles are, and what do you think the red circles are? Because they are located in the nucleus, in the center of the atom, they have to be either protons or neutrons. But there's really not a lot of evidence to suggest which is which, okay? So the dots on the outside have to represent probably the electrons, because electrons exist outside of the nucleus, okay? And then the two big circles there in the picture represent energy levels, okay? And we haven't really talked much about energy levels yet, but we will, okay? Energy levels are places in the electron cloud outside of the nucleus where electrons can exist, okay? So it says here, would you be able to identify the element and the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons? And that answer right now is probably no, okay? So let's look at it again. So at first glance, you might think, no, I can't identify the element because I don't know whether the green circles or the red circles inside the nucleus are protons or neutrons. We know they have to be one or the other because protons and neutrons are inside the nucleus. And we know that electrons are outside the nucleus, okay? So you can't tell which is which for a couple of reasons. One, they're not labeled. Two, there's not a plus sign on the protons because protons are positively charged. And because it's kind of drawn in 3 dimensions, you can't really determine how many total are in there because they're overlapping. And so it's kind of hard to determine that, all right? But there is something else that you can use to identify what this element is. So if you remember our discussion about ape man, the atomic number, which is the number of the element, is equal to the number of protons. And remember, we can't tell which ones are protons in the nucleus, right? Because they're not labeled, equals electrons. Now, we can easily identify the electrons in this drawing. They're the ones that are outside the nucleus, okay? So they are right here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 electrons. And if this number right here is 8, then that means this number has to be 8, which means this number has to be 8, okay? And so then once you determine that the atomic number is 8, that means there has to be 8 protons, okay? And even though protons are officially the identity particle, we can use indirect evidence by finding electrons, which are easy to identify, and say if there are 8 electrons, that means there has to be 8 protons. And if there are 8 protons, the atomic number of this element has to be number 8. So then we can go back to our periodic table and look for element number 8, and that element is oxygen, okay? So again, just to review, we can use indirect evidence, or in English ELA terms, we would say that's context clues. We can use indirect evidence in order to identify the number of protons, which then tells us the atomic number, which then will tell us what element this is. So this is just a quick tutorial, really quick for those of you that missed a Zoom meeting, or for those of you who need a review. We will discuss this in the Zoom meeting today, but I wanted to make a video so that you had access to it on your own. All right, guys. All right, have a good day.